I believe you have to find out what works for you as an athlete. And sure, there's plenty of studies out there and research that show certain things are better than others, or don't do this and do this, and it can be confusing sometimes. But that's the fun of these things, is that it's such a personal journey. You get to experiment and see what works for you. And been things that didn't work for me years ago in running that work now. And so it's just this it evolves over time. And this is an unconventional method that I've used to become better at running and ultra running specifically. I don't think this is optimal per se, but it's something I found value in. It's just something to be careful with, because I've also gotten to the point where I've destroyed myself and been too exhausted. There was a period of time where I was sleeping 12 to 15 hours every night on the weekend, and I'd need a nap in the middle of the day during the weekdays. So during my lunch break, resting for 20 minutes. And it's because I blew myself up. But this unconventional training method has helped me when it comes to my mental grit, if you will. And that's obviously a big part of running. I've heard people talk about running or athletics in general being like 10% physical, 90% mental, that type of thing. And I like what the Iron Cowboy says, James Lawrence, where he goes, it's 100% physical and 100% mental. And I like that because it puts this perspective of do everything you can physically and also latch on to it's a mental game as well. And this is something that's helped me train that mental grit or that tenacity to be able to endure tough things. And it also helps make the easier things that I do in training a lot easier. And so I'm going to tell you a quick story about one of the things that I've done that just helped set me up in a mindset of I can do this, and it's because the glass ceiling's a little bit higher. Like I set a new bar. I've been doing ultras for a couple years now, and when I was training, I can't remember if it was, I think it might have been after my 100-mile race, the first time I did 100 miles, and I was just having a tough day. I was kind of mad about some things in my personal life and a relationship I was in at the time, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to work out all night. So I started in the evening. And what I did was an hour of yoga, a 20-mile bike ride, a 30-mile run, then a 20-mile bike ride, and an hour of yoga. And so it was a lot of volume. And this is where I'm saying you have to be careful with these type of things, because sure, I was maybe overdoing it and I could put myself in a place with, it would just increase the likelihood of injury. I was definitely early in my running career too, so it was just a lot. But I recovered afterwards. I took care of myself. This is the unconventional training method. Doing something that is just completely unreasonable. Like, this was a fit of being upset, and the way to deal with that, for me, a lot of my life has been to exercise. And I'm looking at other strategies, so I'm not fully relying on running. Like, I'm not always going to be able to run when I'm upset, right? I can't just leave work sometimes, or if I'm in an argument, just go for a 30-mile run, right? It happened to work out in this specific situation. And to walk you through it, like an hour of yoga, I like yoga, super chill, right? I'm just kind of thinking of the night I have planned for myself. I get on the bike, and then after the bike, I'm beat up, right? I biked for 20 miles. And then I have this 30-miler in front of me and another 20-mile bike ride and an hour of yoga. And so I started on tired legs. I did the 30 miles, took me several hours, hopped on the bike. I was much slower, got it done, and relax with an hour of yoga. This changed things for me because I was able to do something so unreasonable and then just live my life the next day. Sure, I was a little slower and beat up, but the baseline was set, and this was ammunition I had for later when things got hard. So for example, a couple weeks later, I had to run 5 miles before I had to fly for work. Had to get up around 3 in the morning. And it's like, that's no fun, right? Like, I like my sleep. I want to recover and rest and do things properly. But I told myself I was going to get 5 miles in, and I sure as shit wasn't going to do it after flying all day. I hate doing that. And so I decided to get it done beforehand. And so waking up, the alarm at 3:30, waking me up, or 3 a.m., whenever I got up, I didn't want to do it, right? Like, I'm tired, and 5 miles seemed like a long time. But one of the things I reminded myself of in that moment is, remember when you did an hour of yoga, a 20-mile bike ride, a 30-mile run, a 20-mile bike ride, and an hour of yoga all through the night? Well, you can do 5 miles on 5 hours of sleep. And so I think this type of thing goes a long way, or it's something you see when someone sets a PR in their distance, right? Maybe you've been running 10Ks for forever, you do a half marathon, and then it's like, oh, a 10K is easier. And so I don't know what limit this goes to per se, as like how far can you take it? Could you then run 1,000 miles and then a 500-mile race is easier? I don't know if easier is the right word, but there's this confidence of I can. I've done things that are unreasonable before. Now, sure, if you're doing this all the time, you could hurt yourself. I've never been an advocate of go injure yourself, but I think there's a time and place for this. And so maybe there's something you can do that's your new baseline, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as me. But if you're used to running 3 miles, could you go run 6 miles right now or tomorrow and walk the last two because you've set your distance PR? That's the thing with this is like let go of, if you're doing something like this, let go of the time. And that's what I had to do when I'm doing this long workout throughout the night is like whenever I finish that second bike ride, I finish it, right? But I did the distance. And so now I challenge myself a little bit more with doing things within a certain amount of time, depending on the workout. But if you're going to go set a new distance PR, you don't necessarily have to set a time goal, right? Like you could, and power to you if you hold yourself to that. But if you're trying to go from 2 miles to 6 miles, just be okay if you walk or run the last couple of miles, and now you've raised your baseline. And there will be people out there that says this is too much, it's overtraining, you're not ready. Sure. But I went from running a half marathon and then signing up for a 100-mile race. It took me 2 years to get there. I failed the first time, but I had set this baseline that just changed my perspective. And if you're not trying to do more, that's fair. I also think you get this confidence boost of, wow, I can do unreasonable things, and it helps you just in life in general. At least it's helped me. So hopefully you get something out of this. My name's Reese Jones, just doing running content, I guess. I just want to help people enjoy their relationship with running, learn from my mistakes, and be able to do it as long as they possibly can, staying away from injuries. So I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.